The Cincinnati Reds get their ace back on Wednesday.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Reds podcast. My name is Jeff Carr, and I'm a lifelong Cincinnati Reds fan. I've been podcasting about this team for now 7 seasons, and I'm glad that you're alongside me here today. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team, your Cincinnati Reds, every single day. And on today's podcast, there were some positive injury updates on some guys that are recovering from Tommy John surgery, and I kind of wanted to just mention those a little bit later on in the show, along with the fact that Sal Stewart continues to mash down in AAA. That's later on. Coming up here in a few minutes, the Reds got a big win on Tuesday night, and it was all because of a bit of an ingenious lineup maneuver from Terry Francona. We'll talk about why it paid off so big. But we will begin with the return of Ace, Hunter Greene. That's all coming up on today's Locked On Reds podcast that is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app today, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB to save $20 off your first purchase. Hunter Greene is back today, starting against the Philadelphia Phillies, and I'm very excited to see this because he has not started since June 3rd. His last start was June 3rd. It's amazing to think about how long it's been. He has dealt with this groin injury that for a minute we thought it was something else, and honestly, all tests had revealed that it was just a grade 1 groin strain, but it was something that he couldn't get rid of. And every time he thought he could go, something would feel uncomfortable, and so he would shut it down. And he has said throughout the entire process he wanted to be 100% ready. He wanted to be 100% available for this team. And while we can have the ace, is he the ace? Is Andrew Abbott the ace conversation later on? It's clear that before he hit the IL, Hunter Greene was the ace of this staff, and I think that we forget that because we haven't seen him. When he's not been on the field, it's hard for us to envision just how good he was. But let me remind you real quick with the basic stuff. 2.72 ERA in 59 2/3 innings pitched. He had a 4-3 record there in those 11 starts that he made so far this season. But the most impressive statistic for me is the whip. The walks plus hits per innings pitched. Basically, base runners allowed per inning, less than 1. 0.972. I mean, we're talking about a dude that has been on fire until this injury sidelined him for just a super long time. But I think it's a little bit of a blessing in disguise because he's coming back completely healthy. He confirmed that he feels amazing. All of the tests check out. Everything is in agreement that he is ready to go. And he understands, too, the thing that everybody's worried about, right? He's coming back in the middle of a race for the playoffs. And as much as the Braves could not help us out last night, they could not beat the New York Mets. They got a win, and they ended their losing streak. But the Reds still remain 2 games out of the final wildcard spot. So with Hunter Greene coming back, he's kind of being looked upon as like, all right, dude is coming back. It's time to go. He understands that.
No, I mean, I'm not oblivious to the situation that we're in. I put a lot of pressure on myself. Nobody's ever going to put more pressure on me than I will myself. I mean, I'm the one that's going through this process, and I'm going through this journey of the sport and who I am as a person and a player. So I think understanding that and being able to not lose sight of that is super important, and keeping that perspective. But obviously I'm putting my best foot forward. Of course, I've put a lot of work in this time off to make sure that I'm in a good position. Nothing's guaranteed, but there's no doubt when I step foot on the mound tomorrow that I've put my best foot forward in the process of being gone.
That was just one clip from his press conference that he had before Tuesday's game where the Reds ended up beating the Phillies. But throughout that press conference, I got an interesting just an interesting thing that I gleaned from everything that he said, because he kept talking about processes and being present in the process and all the different mental aspects of all of this. It really seems like it was a struggle for him. And remember that Terry Francona even had the quote, it was probably about a month ago now that Terry Francona said this, but Terry Francona basically said, look, at this point, we're just kind of leaving it up to how he feels. Because they have tried everything. I think they got like 3 different tests from 3 different people to confirm what was going on and making sure that it wasn't something more and there wasn't more damage that had been done that needed more repairing. And everything came back and said it was a grade 1 groin strain. So it's great to see that he is recovered and he is ready to go. Because bringing him back now, and if you get Hunter Greene back now, because he only made 11 starts like I mentioned, but if you get that guy back, the guy who had a sub-3 ERA, sub-1 whip, he's more fresh than some of the other aces in the league right now. And if you can keep him healthy for the rest of this season and hopefully for some sort of playoff run, he's more fresh than anybody else in your starting staff. And he might be the best talent that you have on this pitching staff as a whole. Like, this could be amazing for the Reds, because if you look at this out and you look at the rest of the schedule for the Reds for 2025, he's going to make about 9 starts. If he pitches every 5th day, he will make 9 more starts this season, including today against the Phillies. And kind of looking at the opponents that he's going to face, he'll miss Milwaukee, who always seems to clobber him. He'll pitch against the Angels. He'll miss Arizona, pitch against the Dodgers. He loves to pitch against the Dodgers. He's going to face the Cardinals twice. He's going to face the Mets in that series. He will miss the 3-game set there in San Diego. As far as like when his probable starts line up, he'll face the Athletics. Like I mentioned, he faces the Cardinals twice. The second time, he'll face them in St. Louis. He will not pitch during the 4-game Cubs series at home against them. And then he'll pitch against the Pirates and he'll pitch against the Brewers. He's slated, as long as everything evens out and he doesn't get an extra day of rest here or there, he's slated to pitch the final game of the season in Milwaukee. And I actually had an interesting conversation with our Locked On Cubs host, Sam Olber, that Cubs fans are really worried about how far ahead Milwaukee is getting at this point. Not simply because the Cubs may not catch Milwaukee, but because that final series of the season, with Milwaukee facing the Reds, Milwaukee could just lay down and let the Reds sweep that series and go into the playoffs and keep the Cubs out of the playoffs if the Cubs continue to fall back. But there's lots of things that have to happen for that to be a thing. But the whole point being, Hunter Greene is going to line up and be a part of that series. It's so great to see him back, though, because having not had him in this rotation for a long, long time, we talked about how the Reds needed to address it at the trade deadline. And Nick Krall went out and did that, bringing in Zach Littell. And now, with that move and Hunter Greene returning, you can be a little bit more careful with Chase Burns. And I think we're going to see that. He's already, so I think initially he was supposed to be the guy getting today's start. So they're going to skip that start. I think he makes the next start, and then after Nick Martinez pitches on Friday, Nick Martinez goes into the bullpen. And so then Chase Burns is in the rotation until Nick Lodolo comes back. There's a possibility that Nick Lodolo comes back before Chase Burns makes another start. I'm not looking at the math on that one. I could be wrong. But at the most, I think Chase Burns has one more start, because all reports continue to be positive about Nick Lodolo and the fact that they caught that blister at the right time. But not having Hunter Greene, you were really worried about the Reds' pitching situation moving into the most crucial part of the year. Now he's back. Now he's ready to go. Everything has been good with his rehab. All the recovery has gone well. And he's back pitching today against this Philadelphia Phillies team that, quite frankly, they got to be a little bit champing at the bit after these first 2 games. I get it, they scored 4 runs on Monday, but that was in 1 inning. And they only scored 1 run yesterday. This lineup is too good to stay down for too long. So hopefully Hunter Greene can continue to keep them down, and then the bullpen can finish out the game. I don't expect him to pitch super deep into the ballgame, maybe 5-6 innings at most. And then you're going to turn it over to this bullpen, and they'll be ready to go. But so happy to see the Reds' ace back out on the mound today. But the Reds got a win on Tuesday night thanks to a very ingenious move by Terry Francona with this lineup. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time that you had a service emergency, like a burst pipe. If the first plumber didn't answer, did you wait? Nope, you called the next one. That's why having a reliable business line is so important. And that's why you need Open Phone. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system that helps you streamline and scale customer communication, all from an app on your phone or computer. I mean, your whole team can share one number and respond to customers like a shared inbox. No more, who's handling this? You. No. Open Phone is offering Locked On Reds listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnMLB. That's OPENPHONE.com/LockedOnMLB. And if you have existing phone numbers with another service, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers. Thank you for making Locked On Reds part of your everyday routine. All of our everydayers out there really appreciate you guys. And if you're not an everydayer, hit that subscribe button right here on YouTube or on your favorite podcasting app, because we're on all of them out there. Go check us out today. And by the way, remember that tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, Steve will return and we will have a live show where we get into the comments with you, your questions and your comments. We'll talk about the weekend series ahead with Milwaukee. Man, I don't know what to expect from it. It's going to be kind of crazy. One of those like flip a coin, lottery ticket type of things. We'll get into that on the live show, 3 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday. Make sure you check us out on the YouTube page there. All right, so the Reds got a big-time win on Tuesday night, and it was all because of timely hitting and the way that the lineup was able to bounce back from the bad performance on Monday. But it was interesting because the lineup changed. And I'm sure you noticed. It's interesting because I've kind of gone through a bit of an evolution as a baseball fan where lineups don't necessarily bother me as much as they used to. I mean, sure, you can get into the minutia of, a guy batting 6th over 7th or, something like that. The only time that I really get my antennas perked up or something like that is if somebody who absolutely shouldn't be batting second is batting second. Santiago Espanol. But thankfully, since Matt McLain's kind of started to figure it out a little bit more, I know his power hasn't quite returned just yet, but he had a nice double on Tuesday night. But he's been batting second, but Spencer Steer got the look on Tuesday in that 2-hole, and man, did he produce. He really came through. I mean, he was a couple of feet away from hitting a home run late in the ball game, and he had this amazing double that gets the scoring started. Quite frankly, was all that the Reds needed because Brady Singer and the bullpen pitched so well, but he came in clutch, and he's been doing that a lot here recently. I feel like he's coming up with big hits in big spots with guys on base, bringing them around where the whole lineup isn't necessarily following along. But in this game, they were. And there were some very key hits by some guys to lead to this win. But another one that really stood out was a home run, his first at Great American Ballpark, by Miguel Andujar. And it was intriguing because Tito was asked after the ballgame about his lineup's performance, and he had a lot to say about the Reds' newest lefty masher.
Yeah, we did. SB did a good job. I mean, I thought up and down and Steer, I wish Steer's ball would have gone about a foot farther, but he had some really good at-bats. We did some good things. Andujar continues to swing the bat really well. That's a difference maker against a lefty. Well, and he's got 1,000 OPS against left-handers. That's that might be the best in baseball. That's a big bat to have in the middle of the order.
And that was the reason why they got Andujar at the trade deadline, and it was a part of a plan that Nick Krall had where he went quantity over quality and that he attacked certain areas of the Reds' needs with multiple different players. And I think that Miguel Andujar is a guy that, he really comes over from the A's in a way that was very underestimated, I think. even by myself. And I found it funny. I tweeted after he hit the home run that I got shouted down to shut up after I said that I liked the trade for Andujar, and it was all because of how it fit into the rest of the puzzle. Not necessarily in a vacuum. In the vacuum, the trade was nice. It was fine. It was kind of whatevs. But in how it fit to the puzzle, I liked the puzzle. And it really showed through on Tuesday night. Now, it's interesting because I think there's a difference in, you had one good game against the lefty versus how the team has been all year. And quite frankly, the team against lefties all year has been very bad. There's only 3 teams that are worse against left-handed pitching than the Reds are, and they're the Pirates, Giants, and Rockies. And all of them are behind the Reds. The Pirates and the Giants well behind the Reds. So it's clear that, you got to be able to hit well against both sides of the mound, right? Both types of pitchers. And Terry Francona was asked, was this just a flash in the pan, or is this something more when it comes to the Reds against lefties?
Well, it's a good night, but we are situated where I think we can be more competitive against both sides of pitchers because of the moves that got made.
Now it's interesting, in a tiny sample size since the trade deadline, the Reds are actually worse against lefties than they are on the whole on the season. But that's in a tiny, tiny sample size, only like 50 plate appearances. So I'm not going to go too crazy about that. But at the same time, this could be that kind of a point where they go crazy, because Ranger Suarez is no just mid-lefty. Ranger Suarez is a really good left-handed pitcher. And early on this season, he had an ERA under 3. Kind of seems like, I don't know if fatigue's getting to him. He's been a pitcher for a few years now. It's not as if he's brand new to this league, but even toward the end of the ball game on Tuesday night, kind of started to seem like Ranger Suarez wasn't hitting his spots, and the Reds took advantage of him. They played add-on as they should, and it was good to see how this lineup really took advantage of him despite him throwing with his left hand. I mean, I've said it multiple times, and I'll continue to say it again until the Reds get consistently good against left-handed pitching, is that the best strategy to employ against these Reds is to get anybody that can throw an object with their left hand. Doesn't matter if they've got good pitches or not, it's just throwing with your left hand. But on Tuesday night, that criticism was wrong. And it was because of how Tito moved the lineup around. Because Spencer Steer batting second, but also Miguel Andujar batting fourth. We mentioned this the other day, that the Reds need to employ this idea of a cleanup hitter roulette. Take the hot hand and put him in the cleanup spot. And right now, there ain't no hotter hand than Miguel Andujar. He is hitting the ball really well in really tight spots where you need somebody to either get on base or bring somebody on base in. Miguel Andujar is that guy that's really coming up clutch for the Reds at the moment. And just another nice trade deadline addition by the Reds. And I did think it was a little bit funny there in that first clip. He did talk a lot about Andujar at the end of the clip, but at the beginning of the clip, he mentioned Santiago Espanol, which, he had a fine day. And Santiago Espanol is in the absolute right role for him. Super utility, where he plays a little bit. He doesn't have to play every day, and nor should he, because he really got exposed when he was. But if he can play here and there, you can pick your spots a little bit. Santiago Espanol is an on-base guy, a good piece of hitting type of guy. You put him at the bottom of the lineup, turn the lineup over. He did his job on Tuesday. But I do think it's kind of funny. It's like, you're asked about the lineup, and the question that came in did also reference the fact that the bottom of the lineup had a great day. And so that's probably why Tito immediately went to Santiago Espanol. But I almost wonder a little bit if there's not like some sort of thing like he has just figured out that he loves Santiago Espanol and he is going to mention his name as much as he possibly can. Get you somebody that loves you as much as Tito loves Santiago Espanol. That's all I got to say about that. But it was a good night at the ballpark for the Reds lineup, and it was a good night for the lineup decision maker. I don't know if you caught this too the other day. I saw it in an article. It was a quote from him that I think their process of making a lineup is he makes a lineup and Freddie Benavides makes a lineup, and then they kind of collaborate and see where they are the same, where they differ, and then they form the lineup for that day. Kind of like that, because it was very obvious the Reds used a computer simulation to make their lineup in years past. I'm not saying that all analytics are bad. I talk about analytics a lot, but there's a gut feeling to it, and that's why there are managers. That's why Tito Francona is going to be a Hall of Famer here soon. Well, there was a good update on a couple of guys recovering from Tommy John surgery on Tuesday night. And Sal Stewart, man, he just keeps on mashing. If I go to an event, I use GameTime. Full stop. Like literally Reds games, Bengals games, Cyclones games, FC Cincinnati games, Bearcats games. Okay, and on the off chance I go to like a concert or a theater event or something like that, GameTime. They've got it all. They can give you every piece of information about your ticket so that they take the guesswork out of buying tickets, no matter where you go. If it's Cincinnati, if it's somewhere else, if you're following the Reds along, maybe you're following the Bengals along this football season, GameTime can even show you your view from your seat. And they have the all-in pricing model so that you don't get surprised by fees whenever you go to check out. You should check out GameTime. Download the app today, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. So you're going to get a great deal because GameTime has great deals. And you're going to get an extra $20 off your first purchase on GameTime using that promo code LOCKEDONMLB. GameTime, man, they got the last minute tickets. The lowest prices always guaranteed. If you can't watch us on YouTube, you can always listen to us on your favorite podcasting app. We're on every single one of them. Go check us out there today. All right. And by the way, after you're done with today's episode, go check out Locked On MLB Game Night. They watch every game every night so that you don't have to. All right. So looking at a couple of different good injury updates on the broadcast. I don't know if you saw this on television for the Reds, but on FanDuel Sports Network, Jim Day gave the update that Julian Aguiar and Brandon Williamson were both in the clubhouse on Tuesday night. They are actually due to make a bullpen appearance this weekend, or not a bullpen appearance, but they're having a bullpen session. And the whole thing with both those guys they are recovering from Tommy John surgery. So there's not been a lot of updates about them. It's well known that when you get Tommy John, you're just not going to pitch for, at least a year, probably a year and a half, something like that. And both those guys lined up that they were later on in the season in 2024 when they got it. So it was understood they weren't going to pitch it all this year. But it's great to hear that they have a bullpen session coming up, both of them. And I also saw as well an injury update on Rhett Lauder that he is due to have a bullpen session on August 17th, though it is understood he's not going to pitch it all this year. So that's 3 guys that this pitching staff is going to get back next year healthy, at least, as long as the bullpen sessions go according to plan and you continue to see some good rehab progress for them for the rest of this season. And then they should be ready to go come spring training time. And just kind of looking ahead a little bit, like the good news about Hunter Greene returning today, and then hopefully we should see Nick Lodolo coming back here soon. You're going to have Chase Burns next year. You're going to have Brady Singer for one more year of team control. You're also going to have, obviously, Andrew Abbott's going to be here too. You've got so many options in this rotation, and you don't even have to go out and get anybody. Like Nick Martinez could return. I don't think it's going to be on a $21 million a year deal, but you could get him back, maybe, unless he just really, really wants to be a starting pitcher somewhere. But that would be a great dude to have as a Swiss Army pitcher. Zach Littell's deal is up at the end of this year, so he will not remain with the Reds unless they bring him back too. But it's nice to know that going into this offseason, the Reds don't really need starting pitching. Knock on all the wood, fingers crossed. I'm saying right now on paper, as of August 13th, 2025, the Reds have some nice depth. The starting pitcher for 2026. That's going to be pretty fun. Speaking of 2026, a guy who should be factoring in pretty prominently I don't know how early in 2026, but definitely at some point next year, Sal Stewart just continues to mash, dude. He's got 22 games in Louisville right now under his belt for AAA. In those 22 games, he's got a .313 batting average with a .383 on base and a .614 slugging percentage. He got 5 home runs. I think he's got, what was it? I saw that it's a 5 straight games with an extra base hit streak going on for him right now. He's got 10 doubles as well. Love to see this. And the best part about it is he's almost walked as much as he's struck out. He has 10 walks to 12 strikeouts. Now, I will say a little bit of a caveat after giving you a bunch of AAA stats. I don't go too crazy about AAA stats because immediately you're going to say he's hitting 300, slugging over 600, call him up right now. Those numbers don't translate to major leagues. There's a big gap between AAA and the majors. So I want to say that it's good to see that he's mashing down in AAA. I don't believe that that's going to speed up his timeline at all. I think he should be up with the Reds next year, not this year. But I have been very impressed with how he has made the jump from AA to AAA, and not only has he not missed a beat, but he's gotten better. Because like in 80 games in Chattanooga this year, his OPS was .850. And he jumps up to AAA, and his OPS is now .997. And it's a smaller sample size, like a quarter of the games. But you would expect a bit of an adjustment period for a guy going up to AAA. And the way that the bats have this situated, Sal Stewart bats third every night. He doesn't bat in the bottom of the order. He's following Hector Martinez right now. And I think he's, or at least on Tuesday night, he was ahead of Rhys Hines. So Rhys Hines was batting fourth. Sal Stewart was batting third. And just to give you a quick example of the difference of AAA stats to Major League stats, Rhys Hines in AAA right now has an OPS of .970 with a batting average of .303. I continue to believe that there should be some sort of opportunity for Rhys Hines, but I defer to the Major League organization that just continues to leave him in AAA. It's kind of hard to argue with them that if they're just not going to bring him up, then what are we as fans missing with him? Because it seems like he has so much raw talent and he just needs to develop it. But it was good to see that Sal Stewart is continuing to hit. It was a good night for the bats overall. They won 6-4 over the Stripers, the AAA team for the Atlanta Braves on that one. But no, look, when it comes to Sal Stewart, Rhys Hines and Will Benson and guys like that, I really feel like Rhys Hines and Will Benson are guys that should get another look at some point this year. The raw talent is just undeniable, and it feels as though there's some development that needs to go on. The issue is this team is no longer in that phase where they can wait on guys to figure it out at the major league level. They just can't. They were a couple of years ago. 2022 was the perfect year for guys to figure it out. And that's why I say with Will Benson, I keep wanting to see more of him in the majors, because remember what he was like in 2023? Now, I get it, he's not hitting lefties. That's fine. But putting him in a good spot, limiting his exposure to left-handed pitching, his OPS plus was at 123. You're telling me there's not something still there? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like there's still something they could tap into. With Will Benson, I feel like there's something they could tap into with Rhys Hines. I just don't know what opportunity they would have to get a look at something like that. But it's good to see that they're hitting well down in Louisville, because at least you know that they can do that. And Sal Stewart is still doing that as well. Oh, and the last thing, too, and speaking of pitching updates, I did see that Wade Miley is continuing his rehab, and he's been pitching in the minors, trying to get back. I don't necessarily know in what capacity that would be. I don't think it would be as a starter. Maybe in the bullpen. Maybe you call him up and you send Sam Maul down. I don't know. I did like the clubhouse presence that he brought to the team. And I thought it was interesting that he's coming back, but he's a guy that I will never be objective about because there's so much about him on and off the field. Even though he was implicated in the whole Tyler Skaggs thing, I think that there's something about him around the team, and there's something that you gravitate toward. He seems easy to root for. I don't know. I mean, it'd be interesting to see if he comes back. It'd be intriguing. But that's how we're going to end today's podcast. Thank you so much for checking out today's Locked On Reds podcast. If you are new to the show, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Become an everydayer. Love to have you on every day with the Cincinnati Reds, talking Reds baseball, because that's what we do. Whether they're in season, out of season, postseason, preseason, trade season, draft season, we're all here for you every single day because we are Locked On Reds every single day.